Good morning, everyone. I invite you to center in, just let all the hustle bustle of the morning move through you. I invite you to take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you choose. And know that you are breathing in the divine. That infinite intelligence is all there is. Infinite intelligence all around me, moving through me, and moving through you, is guiding me, loving me, protecting me, supporting me. And as I know this for myself, I know that for each person here, that infinite intelligence is expressing as joy, as love, as harmony, as compassion, and as kindness. It's expressing as a beautiful blue sky. The clearness today is incredible. And the warm sun peeking up over Mauna Kea, warming the land, taking the chill of the morning away. And I just breathe in that loving energy and connect with it. And I know that as we move through our time together today, that connection just explodes. It is filled with joy, with happiness, the connection that we make with each other, the connection that we make with Reverend Libby today, who is our speaker. And I know that we share this energy of love and harmony with each other. I know that the words that are given today are the right and perfect words that sings to our souls, our hearts. It gives us that aha moment. And we're filled with appreciation. And give ourselves a pat on the back for showing up. So with a very loving heart that I accept that peace, harmony, and love is ours today. And I release this into the law of mind and action, knowing it's so. And together we say, and so it is.
And so now I want to introduce our January theme, which is transformation, and introduce the Science of Mind textbook, introduction of the Science of Mind textbook, what it does. I don't know what it does. Is Dr. Reverend Libby O'Day with her talk entitled The Creative Power of Awareness. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Libby O'Day. Reverend Elizabeth O'Day, who likes to be called Libby, has been involved with spiritual community her entire life, her adult life. She licensed as a practitioner in Huntington Beach, California in 1984, and as a minister in 2003. So she's been doing this a while, and served as a senior minister for 12 years before moving to Hawaii in 2015. She stepped up to assist East Hawaii Center for Spiritual Living as a staff minister after Reverend Tag passed away, and then retired in 2018. A recent implant to the Big Island from West Maui, Reverend Libby lives in a multi-generational home, as a lot of us do, or have, and with her husband, kids, and grandkids, she feels blessed to call Hawaii home. So let me introduce to you Reverend Libby O'Day. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Mm-hmm.
Want to make sure my picture is on. Good morning. Please take a bag at the front there. Somebody just arrived and we're thrilled. So good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you. I want to thank Reverend Nadine and all of you for inviting me here and welcoming me here. I've been hearing about you for years from Reverend Mark, who lived near me in Kapoho for years before the volcano and before I moved to live with my kids. So today, one of the things that we do in the Science of Mind, it is traditional for us to do the first 4 introductory chapters of the Science of Mind book every year. And I'm on the chapter called What It Does. Now, this is very interesting because if you read this chapter, Ernest Holmes shouts at you. He literally shouts. Have you noticed that about him when he writes all in capital letters? I mean, he's driving the point home. Well, in this first part of this chapter, the first paragraphs, the first 4 paragraphs, he says the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to quote him because I can't say it better than he says it. The infinite divine mind is the potential of all knowledge. Now think about that for a minute. What does he mean by knowledge? He means anything that can be known, anything beyond what we can know with our human apparatus, that literally the infinite divine mind holds everything in it, everything, the infinite potential, right? But now here's the part he drives home in this chapter. It can only manifest through the channel of our own minds. Then he says it again. Spirit can only give us what we can take. It can tell us everything, but we can only accept and take in what we can understand. So infinite knowingness becomes our wisdom only in such degree as we embody its intelligence. This is said over and over again until we get it. And so what does that mean for us? This is obviously such an important point that Ernest Holmes does not want any of us to miss it. And then he talks a lot about some other things. And so I'm going to just kind of freeform some of the stuff he talks about next. One of the things he talks about is that, you know what? Not only is this infinite knowingness pure potential, but it exists in potentiality. Now, in quantum physics, they talk about potentiality. And that means that there is a soup of possibilities. And our mind is what determines, what chooses the particular manifestation that is going to occur. That was the double slit experiment that was done back in the 60s. And it was extraordinary when physicists decided and discovered that at the quantum level, consciousness, the mind of the person doing the experiment, is literally choosing how the experiment is going to turn out, the result, the outcome. Whether wave was a particle, whether light was a wave or light was a particle, that was determined by the mind of the person watching it. So the consciousness of the person watching the experiment. And Ernest Holmes knew this way before this experiment, and that's exactly what he's talking about. And not only Ernest Holmes, but this is also true in deep philosophies of the Eastern sort. So Buddhism, Hinduism, yogic tradition, Taoism. I mean, if you've ever read the Tao Te Ching, full of this sort of thing, that the 1,000,001 things are there in pure potentiality. And it is the perception of the individual that chooses what they experience. So for each of us, this gives us all the power in the universe, but only to the extent that we can use it. And so he has a sentence about that I think is really important. And for some reason, I wrote it in tiny letters, so I have to take off my glasses to read it. A unity must be established with that infinite divine presence. A unity must be established, a conscious connection made before we can derive its benefits. Now, that's a very powerful point to make. And it sounds like it's something out there, right? We're making a unity with something. What is it? What is infinite divine mind? And then he says, infinite divine mind is in us. It lives through us. We live in it. But that makes it outside of us. And so that can often make it seem like it's far away from us. It's not immediate. It's not right here. And that is not what Ernest Holmes meant. Right here where you're sitting this morning, the ear that is listening right now, the eye that is seeing, the mind that is thinking is all doing it with that infinite divine consciousness itself. See, consciousness is the substrata of all beingness, of all beingness. We live, move, and have our being in awareness, in consciousness. That comes first. And later on in the science of mind, Ernest Holmes drives home the point that everything is consciousness first. Now, a lot of us get very confused by this, and it leads into a little bit of magical thinking for some of us. Like, oh, I do a magic formula, I say these words, and guess what? Magic happens. You know, and we get real good at it too, some of us. So we say the magic words, a little treatment, and we have a parking place. We have the perfect house. Our health improves. It's extraordinary. Our relationships improve. That person in our lives we've just never been able to get along with, suddenly we can. What happened? I said the magic words. It's shifting our perception. That's what Ernest Holmes wants us to know in this chapter. It is not extraordinary. It is ordinary. And the Course in Miracles says this too. Miracles are ordinary. Not only that, it's happening all the time. It's always happening. Consciousness creates. In another philosophical system, yogic tradition, in Patanjali and in Abhinavagupta's work of the Shiva Sutras, it states consciousness is the ground of being and consciousness creates. Can't help it. Ernest Holmes calls the creative property of consciousness the law. Now, how many of you, please raise your hands if you're willing, have been confused by that word law that is always bandied about in science of mind? It's like, what is this law? I mean, am I going to get a ticket? What? Well, it's an interesting thing, but a law represents a principle or a property. So it's always going to happen a certain way. And here's how the ancient Hindus put it, and I love it. Consciousness and its power to create is the same as fire and its power to burn. Do you see? They're one. It's what consciousness does. It's not separate from it. It's not, he calls it love and law. They're one and the same thing. It's what it does. And what is consciousness? Consciousness, for our personal use, is our own awareness. Our own awareness. So I'm going to ask you to think for a moment. Just kind of go back inside a little bit. You don't have to close your eyes or anything funny like that. But think back to when you were a child. Do you feel that person inside? Can you still feel like almost you're the same person. And today, that consciousness is now operating through this adult awareness, through this person with all these experiences and all these events and all these things that have happened to it. And it has made decisions and become very conditioned. And that conditioning is often the filter that's between us and what we're perceiving in the world. So often, when we get into this consciousness creates and we want to direct our creative thought, we have to go through the minefield, as it were, of our past conditioning, our belief system, our hidden beliefs, those things that get in the way for us, those things that sometimes tell us, no, you can't have that, and no, you can't do that. What are you thinking? Who do you think you are? You know, those kinds of thoughts. So that's often the place we have to get beyond. But first and primary is awareness. And awareness is creating, always. Now, how do you know that? How do you know that? Well, honestly, it's the only way we know anything. Think about it. Everything is coming to you through your awareness. When you first wake up in the morning, have you ever gone somewhere and you woke up in a hotel room or a Airbnb in the middle of the night, and for a moment you didn't know where you were? And there's that confusion. And suddenly that armoire over there looks like an elephant in the room. And the chair looks like a huge shaggy dog. I mean, that's because our perception is altered by not knowing. As soon as you know that's a chair, it becomes a chair, even in the dark. So perception is key. Perception is always choosing what we're going to experience. And perception is so altered by our conditioning. Always. So some of us love to get away from our ordinary life and go on vacation because we've just set up the scenario where we can feel at ease. It's ridiculous. We can feel at ease anywhere. But we think we've got to have the right ingredients. It could be a Mai Tai. It could be just surfing. It could be going on an airplane somewhere far away. But you understand we're setting up the conditions for fun and relaxation. Whereas if we chose, we could be having fun and relaxation right here. So this is literally where we do have the magic wand. It's at choice. And we have to free up that vehicle of choice within us so that our choice is not always, going to the same old thing. Oh, I think I need a drink of water. Sorry about that. It's a little dry in my cologne. So we need to be able to free up our choice. And today we're going to do a few exercises to help us do that, to let go of some of our old conditioning, some of our old choices, some of our old thoughts when we do our release and renew ceremony in a little bit here. But let me finish with the points of what it does. So consciousness is always creating. It's creating through the vehicle of your awareness. And your awareness is also synonymous with perception. And your perception is altered and shifted by your bias, by your past conditioning, by your hidden beliefs, by the whole cultural milieu we live in. And so for us to get outside of that, we need to contact, going back to Ernest Holmes' initial thought, that infinite divine source anew. That's our reset button. That's like if we were a computer, that's the reboot. That's how you reboot. You go to source. You become aware of that infinite divine potentiality. Some call it God. There's so many names for it. I'm sure you've got some favorite names. I heard Tim this morning call it infinite intelligence. A beautiful name for it. Imagine that for a moment. An infinite intelligence that is so vast that it has created the entire cosmos. And I think it can't run my life. Wow, bet it does a better job than I do, if I let it. And so he says we need to make conscious contact with that. That as much of that as we can embody and take in is what is going to give us the power to create our lives anew. So that's our first step. And as a matter of fact, that is our first step in treatment. Does everyone know what treatment is? If you don't, please raise a finger or something, and I'll be happy to explain. So it's our form of affirmative prayer, and it has 5 steps. And the first step is always recognition of that infinite source, becoming one with it, filling our hearts, our minds, and our spirits with that infinite source that we are. And from that place, our conditioning can melt away. From that perspective, the more and more we take in that infinite source, the more and more we are able to forgive on a human scale, to love beyond some of our old grievances, to open our hearts to the deep and vast talents that want to move through us out of universal wisdom. I mean, so many people develop an extraordinary new gift or talent in their elder years. Why is that? It's because the pressure's off. Now I get to do whatever I want. And so think about it, opening yourself up, that infinite source of wisdom flowing through you in a remarkable new way to you. It's very possible. And do you have a dream? Do you have something you want to actualize in your life? And is there something you'd like to let go? And so I'm going to invite us now to move into our ritual, because we know that we need to make conscious contact with this divine source, and we know that it is through our choice that we get to create. So let's create together this morning. I've given everyone a little packet. So you have a little booklet. I invite you to get it out, and you have a little pencil, and I gave you an eraser, because if you're like me, you might want to erase something. And then you have 2 other items in here. I'm going to invite you to get them out too. We're going to talk about them for just a minute. You have a little piece of coral and a little piece of lava. And so these were collected in a sacred manner down at one of our sacred sites near the ocean. And my grandson went with me and collected these, and we had a wonderful, wonderful morning doing that. So the first one I'm going to invite you to take into your hand is the coral. And just check that out for a moment. Notice its texture. This is an exoskeleton, and the little animal actually lives inside it. But when the animal leaves its little exoskeleton, then these pieces can break off and end up on the shore. So these feel to me like the bones of the ocean, kind of like the bones of the shore. And I'm going to invite you to think over your last year, 2023. What was it like? Think back, beyond the holidays, right around September, what was going on for you? How was life? Then going back into the summer and into the spring in May and April. Thinking all the way back to just about this time last year. So if you look over that entire year, what was your biggest triumph? What is the part of your life in the last year that you feel like acknowledging right now? Might have been some work, might have been tough. And maybe you're only halfway with something. But what has been your greatest triumph? What's been the biggest win for you last year? And you can write down a few little wins if you want, or a big win. Then I'm going to invite you to think of where you don't feel you made progress last year. You know, we've all got those areas that are big, because I don't think there's anybody small in this room. And so I know you've taken on big things inside yourself. You've taken on big things in your family, in your lives, in your health. What are some of those big things that you'd like to see more progress if you could get it, if it could change, if it could alter? And write those down. And maybe you made big progress and maybe you made headway, but you'd like to see it over the finish line. You'd like to see it transformed. You'd like to see it moved into that place where you feel, I can rest now on that subject, on that project. But my attention over here now. So just see, what is it? What was that? And then I'm going to ask you to look over what behaviors, what habits of mind and patterns of thought do you notice were the most problematic last year? Now, I'll tell you what mine was. It was worry. I have a habit of worrying. It's never done any good. I've got to tell you that most of the things I worried about in my life have never come true. And the things that have happened were never a thought in my mind. I never foresaw the line of fire. I never worried about it. And it was a mind blower to me that all this worry, all this energy to worry, and it's been of no use. Why don't I give it up? Why don't I let that go? So this year, I am letting worry as a habit of mind go, because it's non-productive. And I'd rather be open to being able to live life in the moment. And that was one of the beautiful things that came out of life. People banded together and they brought all kinds of things together and made it work together. Everybody went to their closet and their cupboard and brought out everything they could to share. It was extraordinary. So being available in the moment to give your best. What habit would you have to give up to do that? I feel giving up worry for me is mine. But what would you like to give up? Is it criticism? Is it complaining? Is it holding grudges? I mean, these are tough things to look at in ourselves, but powerful, powerful. Great results if we do it. So write down, what would you like to give up? What are you ready to give up? What habit of mind, what old behavior, or what actual extraordinary circumstances or events, or even ordinary ones, are you willing to give up? And when you have that in mind, you can write it down in your little booklet if you want. Then I'm going to invite you to put your rock in one of your hands and cup the other one over it and hold it up to your heart for a moment. And just take a deep breath. And with your exhale, see that you are moving this out of your body. And you can breathe it even into your little piece of coral. Letting go of what no longer serves you. Letting go of that which you are ready to release today. And move forward without. And then when you feel that you have it in your rock, I am going to pass this little basket around. And I'm going to ask you to put it in here because I'm going to go back to the beach and I am going to give this to the ocean. And it's going to end up with my husband. And so he is going to hold that for me to take to the beach on my way home today. Just see that the ocean is washing it away and taking it back into that vast field. And it is melting away back into pure potentiality, released. Now I'm going to invite you to take the lava and this beautiful piece of lava. This is very sacred on this island. So I want you to treat it with sacredness. This is Pele's body. She's made the new earth. This is our new earth. So I'm going to invite you to hold this in your hand. And close your eyes if you are comfortable doing that. And we're going to do the EO meditation. I have a Hawaiian hawk that lives in a tree on my property and has gifted me with a feather. And so this meditation came to me. So imagine yourself lifting up out of your chair into the sky, over the buildings, over the roads. And you see the vast plain of Waikoloa. You see the Kohala coast. You see Mauna Kea. You feel the sunlight on your wings as you're lifted up. And you're looking at your life. You're looking at your world. And with the clarity of the EO's vision, ask yourself, what is my heart's desire for this year of 2024? Allow yourself to see and feel that. What is my greater yet to be? If I have the courage of a hawk, expand your chest as you breathe in and take that in and allow yourself to have the courage. Say, yes, I have the courage. And I am claiming this. And claim it. And then in your hawk body, imagine that you see this tiny piece of lava and you dive down to it and pick it up with your claws. And this holds the mana. This holds the power of your intention for 2024. And infuse it in this piece of lava. What is your heart's desire? What is your greater yet to be that you are claiming here and now in this moment? And breathe that in, anchoring it. And when you are ready, letting go of the hawk, back into your body with the full intention and awareness of this overview. holding your piece of lava in one of your hands. Know that your intention is now infused there. And I invite you to put this on your altar at home, or put it in your purse or your pocket so that you can be reminded of it. I sometimes do jewelry, so I might wrap it in a piece of gold-filled silver and wear it. Or I can put it on my keychain. But that way I've got my intention with me in a sacred way to remind me of my new earth. What am I creating this year? Yes. That's what it is. And a word may have come with it. See if there's a word that represents your intention. My word this year is awareness. To stay conscious, to stay aware, to stay awake. And I'm holding this in a sacred place that's going on my altar. I invite you to do that. And then at the end of the year, you can take this back to the ocean, or you can take it to a sacred site, giving thanks and giving it back. But you have a little bag you can put it in, so it doesn't mess up your purse or your pocket. And take that home. And that completes our ritual for today and the talk. So I'm going to see what comes next. We have a few minutes of open dialogue. That's what it says on our script. And how does that feel to everyone? Do you want to do it here? Or do you want to do the offering first? You need to open dialogue. Let's feel good. Okay, so I'm going to turn the platform over now and give thanks for being here and being with you.